Well, Lois, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because, like I said, this is going to be a bit different in comparison to what I normally talk about, which is strategies and business. This is very much more on the personal development side, which is also something that I love to share because I think it is so important for anybody who's listening to this or watching this video, just to understand that there's so much more to business than just strategies and just, punching the numbers, etc. It's also a lot more to do with the development side for yourself of what it is that you want to achieve. However, before we dive a little bit more into all of that, why don't I hand over to you so you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Great. Thanks very much for having me, Henriette. It's a great platform. Thank you. I say come and smile with me. And that's my acronym to explain what I do. So the S is I'm a speaker and storyteller. So I've got a TEDx talk and I'm a published author. The M is I'm a mentor. The I is I'm an inspirer, I hope. The L is I'm a learning facilitator, which is training. And E is I'm an empowering coach. I'm a certified conversational intelligence coach. So that's what I do. But I call myself Lois, your friend for forgiveness, because that to me is the ultimate method of achieving freedom.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in your journey. How has life taken you for a turn into where you are now, basically?
I've reinvented myself about 17 times over my lifetime. And it's quite interesting because I started out my career in the marketing world. I did marketing for many years and I moved around quite a lot. But what's so interesting is I just recently wrote an article about how do you discover what your calling is, what your passion is. And I look back to the games I used to play as a child. So as a little girl, I used to play school teacher and librarian. And nobody wanted to play with me because all my friends wanted to play housey and dolly. And then people always used to tell me to stop acting and to stop talking so much. And I put it together that when you look at those games that you played as a child and the things that people told you to stop doing, those are your natural talents. And that is where your passion comes from. So all those years ago, I played those games. And then I went into marketing, which incorporated some of that. But what I do now is I act, I talk, I teach. I do all those games that I used to play as a child. So I went full circle, moving from my childhood games into my passion, into what I do now. And mostly what I do now is really help people move after an adversity or a challenge, is I help them move from victim to survivor to thriver and then beyond to freedom. So I do that. It could be for anything. I concentrate a lot today now on people who face sexual trauma or abuse, but it applies to anybody who's had any kind of major challenge or adversity or change. Loss of a job, an accident, the death of a loved one, a robbery. The same emotions apply, and so the same healing journey applies.
I know, and it's so amazing to hear you talk about that because I think, for any one of us, there's so many things that happen to us in life, and those kind of things, whatever they happen, they almost become like stumbling blocks for us in order to move forward. And I've come across this working with my clients when we come to talk about business strategies and development and growth. So many things have happened to them whereby it is now this kind of block. It's this adversity where they just can't see the light at the other side. They just don't know how to get over that or how to get around it in order to keep moving forward. And it happens to all of us. It doesn't just happen to a specific few. It happens to all of us. And I think what makes it so impressive of what you're doing is how to help people to conquer those things, to get over those adversities and to move forward in life. Because at the end of the day, the past is the past. But unfortunately, the feelings that we have is the thing that cripples us from those, things that has happened in the past, so to speak. And that's what's causing us to stop every time and go, should I move forward or hold on, there's this thing blocking me here, I don't think I can do this. From your experience, have you found similar things?
Absolutely. And, everybody suffers from trauma. They may not acknowledge it or even realize it. It could be trauma from, your mother and father had to go and work and left you home alone. And that can be very traumatic to a young child. And you carry, unless you deal with it, you carry that through your life. You overlooked for a promotion at work and you devastated because you really thought you were going to get the job. And then somebody else, often a man over the woman, got the job. And that's, again, it's traumatic. So we all carry trauma. We wounded. And we sort of get over it, just move on. And unless we deal with it, it sits with us and it triggers us and comes back and haunts us sometime in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so true. And I like the example you gave, because for us women in particular, there's so many things that can happen where we just feel undervalued, where we feel we can't make this happen because of XYZ, or we can't do certain things because we've been told that we can't do certain things. And that is something that sticks with us subconsciously. Like you said, it comes back and it haunts you. So if an opportunity comes along and you go like, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity, but I don't think I can do this because I was told I can't do this. I'm not good enough in order to do something. It stops us really. I'll give a simple example. For me in particular, what happened is I remember working in corporate world. I was told that I'm not good in sales. I can't sell a thing. So that I made my own, that story I made my own. And for a very long time, when I started my own business, I could not sign up clients. And I was wondering, why am I not getting clients? And then I realized one day it's because of that block, because I took on that story of somebody saying to me, you can't sell, so maybe it's not a good thing for you to be a salesperson. I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. So I had to work on getting over that kind of story, that block. And then after that, I just became a very good salesperson for my own business. And I'm so proud of myself. But if I didn't get to that point where I recognized what that block was, I didn't know how to fix it.
Now, those limiting beliefs, and so many of them come from our parents and our childhood relationships. And a lot of them obviously come later in life as well. I remember my first limiting belief was my father. When I wanted to go to university, he said he wasn't going to support me through university because I should just become a secretary, sit on my boss's lap and marry him. And that was all I thought I was good for, was to be a wife rather than a career woman. So I had to break that limiting belief.
Yeah. And there's so many more. I mean, I can come up with tons of stories, not just from my own example, from clients that I've worked with as well, who had certain limiting beliefs. But I think for anybody listening here, they would think now about what their limiting beliefs are, where it's originated from. And I think once you really shine the light on that, you can kind of start speculating and go, oh, this one is popping up and this one is popping up. Maybe I need to start working on these. So this is something that I want to dive into, because I think, for so many people, they haven't just got the limiting beliefs. Certain people have gone through traumatic experiences. So from your point of view, what would you say people can do to manage trauma, so to speak?
Well, the first step is to separate the incident from the emotions. So let's just say you lost a job, you were fired. So you've got to say, okay, the boss, whoever it was, fired me. It happened. How do I feel about it? It is totally separate to what happened. And too often we connect the two and we say, the boss is a bad person because he fired me and I hate him because of it, and blame him for everything. And you can't do that. You need to separate the emotions and feel those emotions completely in isolation. And then it's very important that you feel those emotions. So if it's hatred or anger or disappointment, whatever it is, you need to sit with that, not for too long. You need to sit with those emotions and really feel them, because they're there for a reason. They're there to get you through to the next phase. And if we just brush them under the carpet, we're going to get triggered later. And we're going to have those, it confirms that limiting belief that you're no good or whatever. And so you need to really work with those emotions and feel them. So if you're angry, show your anger, not at the person. Don't go and beat the person up, but go and get a dummy. I've actually got a life-size dummy and a pool noodle, and you go and beat the dummy. Or get a dartboard and put the picture of the person on the dartboard and throw darts at it. But get rid of that anger. Get rid of that. If you're feeling sad, and cry, go and cry. It's important that you feel it. And I always say, feel it with all your senses. Sight, what does it look like? What does it feel like to the touch? How does it smell? Does it smell like rotten eggs? What does it sound like? Nails scraping on a board. And really feel it with all the intensity that you can. And say, okay, now I've had enough of that. Let's change. And then you look for the replacement emotions. So we talk a lot about vision boards. We create vision boards for our careers and for our homes, and we never create vision boards for our emotions. And I said, let's create a really good vision board for our emotions. How do I want to feel? I want to feel the sun shining on my face. Where do I feel it in my body? I feel it in my chest, and it's glowing yellow, whatever. I hear birds singing and children laughing, and I'm feeling calm and relaxed. And really get into the feelings and the emotions and create that vision. And then when you are triggered, when something does go wrong, maybe it's a repeated pattern, you just bring that vision out and you say, that's how I want to feel.
Yeah, I love the way you explain it, because it very much synchronizes with what I do as well. I always talk about the emotions is almost like a clock telling you when you're out of alignment or when you're in alignment. And I do believe in the universal laws, and I'm a spiritual person in all essences. And I meditate a lot as well. So what you say, I very much see how I'm doing that, certain things that happen, and I think about it and concentrate on what does it feel like, and how do I feel at that moment in time about whatever has happened negatively. And then I just go, okay, let's get rid of that. So it's a little bit of energy healing as well, as they talk about, but let's get rid of that. Let's delete that. Let's destroy that. And now let's replace it with what it is that I want. And I do this through meditation as well, and it works. So whether you're consciously doing it, whether you're subconsciously doing it, but it's got to be something that you've got to concentrate on, shine the light on it, basically, as I say, acknowledge it, and then replace it. So I love the way you're saying it, because it very much resonates with what I do sometimes.
No, absolutely. And mindfulness and just being present as well. Stop going back and thinking about it. And there's so many little techniques that can help you be present and to be grounded and in the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And if we just all learn how to take control of our own minds, of our own feelings and emotions, oh my gosh, we can do so much. We can turn so many things around for ourselves and just, create whatever it is that we want for our lives. But we've got to understand that we can take control of our emotions, and whatever has happened in the past, you don't need to drag that along. That you can manage it, like you said, and just keep on moving forward. What about resilience? Because I think this is another thing that you've mentioned here. How do people work with resilience and build up that resilience?
Well, resilience comes, the more hardship you face, the more resilience you develop. But you can learn the resilience without having to go through the hardships. And resilience is your courage, it's your creativity. It's about looking for different ways of approaching something. So it's putting your life back together. So now you've experienced that problem. Now you want to put it back together. And it's about reframing, refocusing, and redirecting. So as with a camera, you put it in a different frame, it looks differently. You focus it, you make it a little bit blurry or sharper, it looks different. You go in, you look at a small part of it, or you zoom out and you look at the whole picture, and it just changes your view of the whole situation. And it's about debate and dialogue as well. It's about talking to yourself, talking to people, discussing the options, and realizing that you can connect with others, and you can co-create a new way forward. And that is what, for me, resilience is. It's about putting things back together. You never quite get back to where you were before. You know, the definition of resilience is bouncing back, but you never bounce back. You claw your way back. But it's getting back to some kind of normality in your life. And that is what resilience brings. And it definitely is something that you can learn.
Yeah, and I love how you say it, because yes, most people would think that you build up resilience by experiencing trauma or experiencing negative influences, but that's not the case. You can build resilience in a positive way to build yourself up and to move forward with whatever situation you're finding yourself in. So I love the way you've put it. The other thing that I find interesting is you mentioned grit. Now, grit is one thing that I've spoken about, and I know so many people talk about, you got to get the grit, you got to do this. But I find personally, when people talk about grit, it's very masculine orientated. But I think for us as women, there's, you know, we don't have to look at grit as a masculine orientated thing.
It's not masculine at all.
No.
So when you've had resilience, so you first, when you experience the hardship, whatever it is, you become a victim of that situation. Then you take the resilience and you become a survivor. And for me, survivor is a struggle. You know, a lot of people say, I survived this and I survived that. But it's still a struggle. You're still trying to make sense of things. Whereas grit, now after you've survived, you now build your grit. And your grit is it's your passion, and it's your perseverance, and it's your persistence to go forward to a new reality. So you set new aspirations and new goals and new ideas, and you take all your experience and you say, well, what can I do with that now? How can I use that? And to me, that's what grit is. It's saying, let's put all of this together and let's create a new passion, a new excitement, a new project, a new job, a new relationship, whatever it might be. And that, for me, is what grit is. And when you apply grit, that's when you become empowered and you become a thriver after you've applied your grit.
I love your example of a grit, and I think I'm going to use that in the future, because I've had so many versions of people talking about it, but I think I'm going to steal your idea and just use your words, if you don't mind, because I love how you explain it. It just makes so much more sense. And it just rings true to the heart. It just makes you feel like, yeah, that's it. That's what it's supposed to be. So I really like your representation from it. And then what about forgiveness? I think this is another thing that a lot of people struggle with. In particular, those who might have gone through trauma, who's had certain negative things happening to them in their lives. Forgiveness is one of those things that a lot of people struggle with. So what is your take on that?
Again, it's looking at that process. So you're the victim, then you're the survivor, then you're the thriver. And when you're a victim or when you're a survivor, there's no way you can consider forgiveness, because you're still trying to work through all your trauma. You're still trying to make sense of what actually happened, trying to get your life back together. So it's actually impossible to forgive when you're at that phase. So when people say, oh, I can't forgive, that is why they can't forgive, because they are not in a place where they are ready to forgive. And so it's only when you become a thriver that you are really in a position to forgive. And so it's also at that point that you develop sometimes called a post-traumatic growth, but a growth mindset. And you take all your experiences and all your learning and you package it together and you say, how can I be better as a result of this? How can I improve my life? And if you say, how can I improve the lives of others? Then you get a benefit mindset. And it's now where you start looking at forgiveness and you say, okay, let's forgive. And it's also understanding that forgiveness is not about condoning. So the boss that fired you, the person, the husband that betrayed you, the person who abused you, you're bonded to that person. You walk around with the hate and the angst and the anxiety and whatever it is you're feeling. And you've got the stress and the high blood pressure. But when you forgive, what you're doing is you're just breaking. free. You're breaking that bond that's holding you to that person. And it may or may not help the other person, but it definitely helps you, and you can walk away free from that situation.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think a lot of people would listen to this and go, ah, that's why, still carrying this along, still bonded with the, the experience or whatever. And forgiveness is definitely one of the things in order to break you free from it. So thank you so much for mentioning that. I think, just from having this conversation and just talking it through with you, I think that in a nutshell, so many people can really listen to this and say, yes, okay, point number one, acknowledge where or what is going on and what is holding me back. And then work through it. Like you said, you manage that trauma, you work through it, build up the resilience, love the grit, because take whatever that is, whatever you've learned from it, and design a new passion, a new project in order to move you forward. And then I think one of the most important things is that forgiveness, regardless who, what, where, when, just forgive that whole thing, whatever it is that you're holding on to. And I think a lot of people will just feel free mentally and physically and just go, this is it, I can do anything now.
Yeah. And you can, forgiveness is a muscle. As resilience is, the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. And forgiveness is the same. And I say to people, start forgiving now, even if you've got nothing to forgive. So everybody these days keeps a gratitude journal. It's the in thing, 3 things you're grateful for every day. I say let's keep a forgiveness journal and start small and forgive yourself. So important every day for 3 things. I forgive myself for pushing the snooze button this morning. I forgive myself for shouting at the dog for eating my slipper. I forgive the husband for not bringing the milk home. And I forgive myself for maybe burning the toast. And so we forgive ourselves for those things that we usually forget it. It's such a silly little mistake. Let's forget it. But just think about it. You're walking down the street and you bump into somebody. What do? You turn around, you say, I'm sorry. And forgive me, I'm sorry. And the person, oh, it's okay. So you're asking for forgiveness all the time, and you're giving forgiveness all the time. And so 3 things every day to forgive yourself for, and 3 things to forgive somebody else for. Forgive the dog for eating your shoe. Forgive your friend for forgetting to phone you on your birthday. And again, you don't think they need forgiveness, but it just gets that habit of forgiveness. It becomes part of who you are, that it becomes so natural that when the big things come up, it is so easy to forgive.
Oh, I love that, a forgiveness journal. I'm definitely going to apply that now as well. I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, because everybody is doing a gratitude journal, and it's so good to have that. But it all comes back down to how we talk to ourselves the whole time. Silly example, I used to say things to myself like, oh, stupid hen, why did you do that again? Or why did you say that? Or, that's just silly, don't do that. Or I used to say so many negative things to myself and question myself. And then I realized what I was doing. So I had to start swinging that around. It's like, that's okay. You made that mistake, forgive yourself, move on, learn from it. And then when I started talking to myself in that sense, so many things started happening in a positive way, because I wasn't constantly beating myself up and saying things to myself that was dragging me down, because that was just a habit of something that I subconsciously did. But then literally starting to forgive myself for little things that I was doing wrong and say, okay, take note, you've learned from this one, don't do it again. And then just moving forward. Honestly, it makes you move forward so much quicker rather than just hanging on to certain little things. So I love that forgiveness journal. I'm definitely going to apply that now myself as well.
That's good. Let's spread the message.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Lois, thank you so much for being here. Honestly, I just hope that everybody who's listening to this, who's watching this video, just feel that they can go and do a little bit of work inside themselves as well. Because like I say, it's not just about business. It's not just about going out there and working on growth within business. with whatever you do in life and in business, you have to start with yourself, and it starts with the self-development. If you don't grow, if you don't forgive yourself, then how can you grow? And how can you grow your business? How can you grow and move further along in that journey? So it all starts with yourself at the end of the day. So Lois, before we go, you actually have an amazing freebie. You've got an amazing checklist available for everybody. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the checklist?
Oh, it's a 12-step. Every time I say 12-step, I think I must change it. I must add or take a step away. It's a 12-step on how to learn how to forgive. And it's just a guideline, and it starts with things like practice forgiveness. and it includes writing. Yeah, writing is such a powerful technique to get over any frustration or hurdle or challenge in your life. Writing is very, very powerful. So it just gives you some tips on how you can work towards forgiving. But do remember that when you are a victim or a survivor, don't beat yourself up because you can't forgive.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you so much for making that available to the audience. So for those of you listening, we've got the link down in the show notes. So by all means, go and download that checklist. Go and have a look at it, see if it will help you as well. You know, just ticking those boxes, just going through it and just going, okay, I can move forward. I can start forgiving certain things. And it's going to become a habit. And just like Lois said, if you start now small by forgiving the small things, bigger things will happen. But when things do happen in your life, it is so much easier then to forgive that person, forgive that process, forgive that situation, because you've already made it a habit in order to start forgiving yourself and forgiving these small things. So by all means, just go and download the checklist, start using it, and I'm sure it's going to make a huge, huge difference for you. And then what I'll also do is if you want to learn more from Lois, by all means, her website details will be there in the show notes. So you can obviously go and get in touch with her there as well. And I'm sure she'd love to have a chat with you if you have any more conversations. But Lois, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for just coming on the podcast and just talking a little bit through this, because like I said, self-development is one of the big things. And I do find a lot of people need to learn a little bit more about that in order to tune into themselves and learn what they're more really capable of in order to do.
And thank you very much. And I just invite all your listeners and viewers to use their resilience and their grit in order to fly free.
Oh, bless. I love your butterfly. I want one. Oh, Lois, thank you so much. I'm sure you and I are going to be in touch fairly soon again. But thank you very much for coming here and sharing your expertise. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And go well, fly free, and be happy.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Bye.